Rumors Race the Beast. Each and every summer, we take you through all the hot theme park rumors surrounding the entire theme park industry and give you our opinions of them, all before the Beast hits the final brake run. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk, joined once again by Dwain Sponseller from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and we have a set of 4 new hot rumors for you right off the internet, and I think you're really going to like them. But before we get started with the rumors, we always have to race the beast, so we're going to put that time clock up there for 4 minutes and 10 seconds, and there you have it. And our first rumor is actually from Cedar Point, that once again, for I think maybe the 5th consecutive year, there is a rumor out there that we're finally going to see Mean Streak change forms. Now, I think the most exciting part of this rumor that most people want to buy into is the fact that Cedar Point would be going with RMC. Dwain, what kind of stock do you place into this Mean Streak being RMC'd and Iron Horse rumor?
Oh, I don't know. We were at COASTER-net, and even the bigwigs in the company were, we had that question and answer session, and they were talking about, don't talk about Mean Streak, don't talk about Mean Streak, because obviously something's going to happen. And we've got the little, probably, fake stick that's in the ground that's got the letters RMC on it. If you haven't seen that, it's on the internet, or you can go to Cedar Point, you can see it yourself. Of course, we've seen that there are orange dots and orange tape literally on every single support structure on the actual ride itself. So we know something is going to happen. I mean, it's just it's been there, like you said, for 5 years. They've discussed what could it be. But the more and more that we look into this, at the beginning, I really wasn't sold on the RMC, but I think I am starting to head that way. We were discussing this a little bit off the air here before we started today, but I really think that it's going to be an RMC overhaul. Now, I do think that it's going to have to be something drastic. I don't think just, chopper tracking the actual ride that's there is going to fix that ride. I mean, some people really enjoy the first part of it. It really lacks in the second part of it, and you're one of those. I think the entire ride is terrible. I ride it because other people ride it, and it's just there. And I'm glad that I might have gotten my last ride on it earlier this season. But I really think that RMC is going to come in, but I think it's going to be a big, huge overhaul where they're going to change some elements, add some elements, take out some things, maybe switch up the way things are working. Obviously, the trains are going to be changed, obviously, as well. So I think that's what's inevitably going to happen. And people generally in the enthusiast world are wanting something from RMC, or at least that's what we gained and garnered at COASTER-net.
Well, I think the other part of it is that a lot of people are looking at Ghost Rider that just opened up in the last week or so, and a lot of people are pointing at Ghost Rider and saying, hey, look at how great Ghost Rider did under the GCI conversion. Well, the problem is that Ghost Rider, when it opened, was a pretty darn good ride, maybe even a great wood coaster that a lot of people ranked pretty highly. Nobody ever really ranked Mean Streak very highly. Even Dick Kinzel in his book said that he wasn't a huge fan of it when it opened. And then especially after when they put on those brakes onto that first drop, it really slowed down the whole ride and really took away a lot of the fun of it. And then you have the mid-course on it that slows it down even further. So a lot of people, GCI just coming in and retracking it is probably not going to take it from its current status and make it even a good ride, even if you put Millennium Flyers on it, because we saw with the Millennium Flyers, it doesn't really help cut down on maintenance for things like Gwazi or Wildcat at Hershey. So the Millennium Flyers aren't going to save this ride. You have to do something more drastic. And actually, I think maybe GCI might have a few tricks up its sleeve. Maybe they have a plan to really redo Mean Streak and add in new elements and almost like a quasi Iron Horse it, but keeping it wood. I don't see why that wouldn't be possible, but more and more it's looking like RMC is the way to go here. So I'm going to have to and that's the bell for the Beast, and we lose. But let me finish up my thought here that RMC, I think, is the way to go. But the one thing in the way of that is that Cedar Fair has not worked with RMC yet. RMC put in a bid for Ghost Rider, and that bid was denied. That Cedar Fair did not like their plans for what they had for Ghost Rider, and they decided to go with GCI. Probably everyone agrees that was the right choice in the terms of Ghost Rider. Now the question mark is, well, do they see Mean Streak in a different light? Do they understand that Mean Streak might not have been the greatest coaster in the world to begin with, and can we now move in and do something completely different with it? Who knows? I think it's going to be an exciting summer to see what happens with Mean Streak and RMC. It is the 25th birthday. I've been saying for a few years now that this is the year to do it. Have the 25th birthday party, announce its closing, and then reopen it up for 2017 as a brand new ride. Makes sense to me, but we'll see if that's actually what Cedar Point does. So moving on to our next rumor, that isn't really so much of a rumor anymore, but almost a foregone conclusion at this point. So let's start that clock. And we know from the very beginning, from the very opening of Kings Island this year, that there's been rumors of everything from a Giga to a train conversion to a new log flume to a wood coaster. And this week we finally saw plans from Mason, Ohio, from one of the city offices that shows that it looks very much like a wood coaster. So the biggest question out there right now is who's the manufacturer of this wood coaster? And I think that's where the rumor gets really interesting, that we know that it's probably going to be a wood coaster, that it fits exactly in the spot that they're talking, but who's going to build it? I think the foregone conclusion might be GCI. That I think if you look at the structure and how the first turnaround goes, it looks very much like a GCI. But there are a few people out there that's saying that maybe RMC is in the mix here and maybe even a Gravity Group coaster. So, Dwayne, what were some of your thoughts when you saw this new plan out there?
Well, I'm going to go back to something we talked about before, and I said this. I don't know if I said it on the air or if we just talked about it, but I said that a coaster in this area would be a perfect plan for Kings Island because, one, it's a family park. Two, it's very, very close to the kids area. And by looking at these plans that we now see, it really looks like one of those transition coasters where it's not so much one of those intense, thrilling coasters like Diamondback, which is very close to this area, but it's also not very, very kid-like, something like the Scooby-Doo coaster of old. So it's kind of in between there. I know you call it a tweener coaster. I think this is the perfect plan for Kings Island. I know a lot of people are going to be a little upset. They were expecting Giga. I don't know why, because it was very obvious that wasn't what it was going to be, especially with the area that's given. We saw the log flume kind of joking around by saying it was going to close, and it closed, and it opened back up. And so that was just Kings Island's idea of messing with the enthusiasts. But now that we actually see these plans, and granted, they're just kind of looking down plans. We don't see elevation change. But if you really take a look at it, it reminds us of White Lightning. It reminds us of those type of coasters that are out there when you really take a look and sit down and view these plans that we see that have been leaked here on the internet from the city office in Mason. So I think, again, that the manufacturer is going to be now what the enthusiasts are going to really pick on here for the next few weeks until we get maybe an announcement. Is it going to be a GCI? I know looking at the plans, it certainly looks like that. You mentioned the drop and stuff to me earlier today about, this is what GCI does compared to what Gravity Group does, compared to what RMC does. And so if you take a look at all that, it does look like a GCI. I think that's the way that I'm going to go with it for now. I really seriously doubt it's an RMC. If Cedar Fair is going to go with RMC, they're going to do it with something that is already built to see if they can trust the RMC company. Plus I think they're going to do it at their main park, which is the Cedar Point, which might be obviously the Mean Streak we talked about before. So I think GCI is probably the way to go. But again, I said it from the beginning, a coaster that's a transition coaster will be a perfect placement where they're talking about. And in regards to name, I'm guessing that Timber's going to be something in there, and I really, really, really hope it's not like Timberhawk or something like that. I'm tired of bird names.
Yeah. GCI, like you said, that first turnaround, looks with the way the bents are laid out, it just looks like a GCI to me. The only thing that I was talking to Danny Miller about, the only thing that's throwing us off is that the people who drew it, there's some initials down there on that, and we can't line up those initials with anyone who actually works at GCI. So maybe it was a Cedar Fair person who drew it, maybe it was somebody else, but that's the only thing that's really holding us back there. And that time, we just beat the beast right on the nose there. Doesn't get any closer than that. But moving into our next rumor, it will actually be from Kings Island's sister park. And now this is one that not a lot of people are talking about. So let's throw up that clock there. And I'm going to throw out there that Kings Dominion, at the Claremont Steel Factory in Ohio, we've seen some green B&M wing track. And I have a tendency to think that B&M track might just be going to Kings Dominion. That Kings Dominion is probably slated for a new coaster here very soon, that they really haven't had a new roller coaster since I-305 opened up way back when, they had Dominator placed, but that was just a relocation. So Kings Dominion's been kind of on the losing end of the new coaster game as of late. And I really feel that Kings Dominion is a place that we could see a new roller coaster. And there's always rumors of a wing coaster going to Kings Dominion. And I'll throw one more thing out there to you, that the track at the Claremont Steel Factory is currently green. And a few years ago, Cedar Fair released a few paintings on their corporate website of each park. And there was a green and orange roller coaster that was obviously just a recoloring of Diamondback. But it was in that photo. And I find it coincidental that now all of a sudden we have this green and orange track coaster that was in this painting. And now all of a sudden we have this green track at the Claremont Steel Factory. I'm going to put two and two together, and I'm going to say that Kings Dominion is going to be the site of the big investment for a new roller coaster for Cedar Fair next year. Dwayne, how do you feel about this one?
I don't know. I look at some of the things that's happened at Kings Dominion even this year. For example, I believe that the longtime general manager has now since located to Carowinds, and Pat Jones was at Kings Dominion, and she's now down there. So I don't know if the park at Kings Dominion is starting to get a little bit behind the times. People are starting to maybe go towards more Carowinds. I don't know if Fury 325 had a lot to do with that. I don't know. She was forced to go down there. Was it her decision? I'm not real sure. Kings Dominion is going to have a brand new general manager, someone who worked at Carowinds in the food and part of the park. So I don't know if that has much to do with it. Again, that's just kind of something that happened here in the past couple of weeks, but I'm really not seeing them getting anything. There hasn't been much hype about it. We don't hear a lot of people talking about it. Even with this painting you talk about, you said that the track is green. That's at the Claremont Steel Park. But I think that in the painting, it was an actual orange track. So I don't know. Like you said, maybe they just decided to switch it. So if I were to take a guess on where this green coaster track that's a wing track is going, my guess would be China, somewhere in Europe. I just don't know if there's anywhere in this part of the country that would benefit from having that. Obviously, Kings Dominion would be one place. There are quite a few parks you could benefit from any coaster. But again, I don't know what type of coaster. I think Kings Dominion would be great to have something like a Thunderbird, like a launched wing coaster. That could be a perfect thing for that park. I'm sure there are a couple places there within their land that could actually fit one of those smaller footprinted wing coasters, but I just don't see it. We haven't heard really anything. We know, I think they just got one of those like Huss rides, right? Or maybe not even a Huss, but like one of the Frisbee rides is what they got this past year. So if you go with that, they got a flat ride. So now it's, and like you said, it's been a long time since I-305. I mean, you had Volcano, you had Dominator, you had I-305, and then now we've really had nothing. I mean, they took out Shockwave, and everybody was hoping that they could put something in there, but that was such a small footprinted stand-up coaster that it really wasn't eligible for that. So we'll see moving forward, but I'm not going to go with this one at all. I really think that green coaster track is going overseas, either out west, or excuse me, to the Far East or somewhere, in Europe.
Well, I'll say this. We know Cedar Fair is going to install a major coaster somewhere. And there we've lost to the beast, but let me finish this thought here, that we know Cedar Fair is going to install one somewhere. The Kings Island project doesn't look all that big to me. That's going to be maybe $10 to $15 million. Even if they RMC Mean Streak, back in the day, the RMC of New Texas Giant, which would be the closest in price, was about $10 million. Obviously, prices have gone up since then. You're still only looking about $15 million maybe. So still you have a major coaster within Cedar Fair that's unaccounted for. The only other place I can really think of that might be that's in line for some major money to be dropped into is California's Great America. But I really think King's Dominion might be the better choice there because of the time, because of the market. They wanna be the thrill park, whereas Williamsburg, Busch Gardens is the family park. So I have a feeling I'd watch out. If you live around Kings Dominion, I would start looking for spray paint somewhere. That's what I would start doing. So moving into our last rumor, and this is another one that not a lot of people are talking about. So let's start that clock once again. And we know Six Flags is going to install some coasters somewhere, and the big question mark is where. And I want to say that Six Flags Over Texas probably makes the most sense for where the next big expenditure is going to be. Because we hear rumblings about Magic Mountain getting the Justice League ride. We hear rumblings about Great Adventure maybe getting the Justice League ride, maybe even Over Georgia getting the Justice League ride. That's been a wild success. I just wrote it, a few weeks ago, and I absolutely love that ride. It's an amazing addition to any park. But we know Six Flags wants to install roller coasters, and we also know that Six Flags is moving away from doing RMC conversions, that a lot of people have talked about the Boss at St. Louis. I don't think that's happening next year. I think what we might see is a brand new coaster being installed at Six Flags Over Texas. And the thing that jumps out to me the quickest is maybe RMC doing a brand new project, a brand new wood coaster, that the only wood coaster that Over Texas currently has is Judge Roy's Scream, which is not very good. So if they did something along the lines of a Goliath that they installed up at Six Flags Great America, I think that might be an amazing addition to Six Flags Over Texas, and would also make it the first park with 2 RMCs in it, which would be interesting as well. Dwayne, how do you feel about Six Flags Over Texas? Are you feeling it? The new coaster, what?
Yeah, I mean, I can see, some valid points there. My question is, do we know of any 2017 full project that RMC is already announced doing? Or I don't think we do, unless there's something overseas. We know that they typically like to make at least one full-scale, from ground up coaster. We had Lightning Rod this year.
And Wildfire.
Had
so we had 2.
The path. Right. So I would say that this might be the year for that. So I can maybe see that. I would also, I don't know, because they are due for a coaster. I think Six Flags Over Georgia is due for a coaster. I mean, we were down there a couple years ago, and they really haven't had a major coaster in quite some time as well.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for a lot of these Six Flags parks. But if we're talking about Six Flags Over Texas, I just don't see RMC coming in and doing this over top of New Texas Giant. I mean, I know New Texas Giant's had its problems, obviously, there at the beginning, and of course with the tragic accident and all that stuff. But are they going to put 2 into one park before every other park gets an RMC? Maybe. If people really in Texas enjoy New Texas Giant and they really enjoy what RMC has done for their company, I can see it. But I just don't see them getting something like that. Now, I can see them getting a smaller footprinted coaster. I know just, a little bit not too far away from them, they have the Batman ride. Could they be getting something like that? I doubt it because of capacity issues, but Fiesta did it, so I don't know what they're going to get. I do like the idea that they could be getting something. If I was going to choose a Six Flags park, it would be this one. and maybe Six Flags Over Georgia. But I'm just not sold that it's going to be an RMC, and obviously not an RMC conversion because they've only got one wood coaster there, and they're definitely not going to convert that. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's something completely different. We might even see one of these new, T-Rex tracks or Raptor tracks or whatever they're calling them. Maybe that's the first place that we see try and purchase one of these different style tracks. I really don't know, but I will say that I kind of agree that Six Flags Over Texas needs something, but I'm not so sure it's going to be this year.
The other thing it could be is it could be that green track at the steel factory. There's the Beast. Six Flags hasn't really worked with B&M a whole ton, but they did build X-Flight a few years back. And a lot of people love X-Flight. X-Flight has a very small footprint for a coaster of that magnitude. And maybe they could do something like a wing coaster down in Texas. The wing coaster pretty much hasn't really spread a lot. As you've seen other B&Ms really, really spread out. All the wing coasters are kind of contained within the same general area. That you got X-Flight, you got, the one in Tennessee at Dollywood, you got Thunderbird, and then, of course, you have Gatekeeper. They're all in that same general region. And I think it's time for the wing coaster to move out. And that's why I kind of think that green track is going to somewhere in America. It's just figuring out where. Is it Kings Dominion? Is it over Texas? Is it over Georgia? I'm not quite sure. But I think Kings Dominion over Texas are two of the parks that I would really be watching this summer for spray paint markings, because I'm beginning to I feel that those are the two parks. Over Georgia is the dark horse. If there's any other park in Six Flags that would get a coaster, it's over Georgia. So those are the three places that I would really, really look out for some markings coming up. But that is the end of our rumor session here tonight on Beat the Beast. Thank you, as always, for joining us here on Beat the Beast. And we would like to remind you that COASTER.net Uncut, we are running our annual calendar contest. So if you want to participate, we are accepting submissions for the calendar all the way up into July 13th of this year. So please participate. You could get your picture published, win a free calendar, and then have a great time doing it as well. So we'll have that link down in the comment or in the description down here at the bottom of the Beat the Beast. And so that wraps us up here tonight. I am, of course, Andrew Barchak from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Dwayne Spunseller from Parkersburg, West Virginia. As always, may the Q lines be ever in your favor.
Right on, Ride Warriors.